I'm Sarah Martinez, 29, and I just became Forbes' youngest tech entrepreneur under 30. But instead of celebrating, I'm staring at a family photo that makes me sick. 3 months ago, my parents handed my sister Madison $120,000 for her art therapy business while telling me I was too needy for asking for a $5,000 loan to keep my startup alive. They said successful people don't beg family for money. Growing up in suburban Denver, I always knew Madison was the golden child. She was 3 years older, stunningly beautiful, with our mother's blue eyes and blonde hair, while I inherited Dad's darker features and what Mom called that intense look. Madison was the cheerleader homecoming queen, and everything came easy to her. I was the weird kid who took apart electronics and spent weekends coding instead of shopping. Our parents, David and Linda Martinez, owned a successful accounting firm. They weren't wealthy but comfortable, the kind of family that took annual Disney trips and worried more about keeping up appearances than nurturing individual talents. Madison fit their vision of success perfectly. She was social charming and dated the right boys from the right families. I remember being 12 when Madison got her first car, a brand new Honda Civic, for her 16th birthday. When I turned 16, I got Mom's old minivan with 18,000 miles on it. Sarah's more practical, Dad explained. Madison needs to make a good impression. Even then, I felt the sting of being considered less worthy of investment. College was where the pattern really solidified. Madison chose art school in California, expensive, prestigious, and exactly what a rich girl should do. My parents paid her full tuition without question, even co-signed for her off-campus apartment. When I announced I wanted to study computer science at MIT, the reaction was immediate pushback. "That's so expensive, honey," Mom said, not mentioning that Madison's art school cost nearly the same. "And Boston is so far away. There are perfectly good state schools here." I worked 3 jobs to pay for MIT, campus IT support, tutoring, and weekend catering gigs. While Madison posted Instagram photos of her artistic adventures and gallery openings, I was surviving on ramen and determination. My parents visited her twice a semester. They came to my graduation only because I specifically asked them to, and they complained about the travel costs the entire time. After college, Madison moved back home to find herself as an artist. She lived rent-free in their basement for 2 years, selling maybe 3 paintings total while working part-time at a boutique. My parents funded her art supplies, studio rent, and even a trip to Europe for inspiration. Meanwhile, I was grinding in Silicon Valley, working 80-hour weeks at tech startups, living in a shared apartment with 5 roommates because San Francisco rent was crushing. The double standard was exhausting. When Madison bought expensive art supplies, it was investing in her talent. When I needed a new laptop for work, I was always wanting something. When she took costly art classes, it was pursuing her passion. When I attended tech conferences, it was wasting money on nonsense. 3 years ago, I finally saved enough to start my own company, an AI platform for small business inventory management. The idea came from watching my parents' accounting firm struggle with their clients' outdated systems. I saw a gap in the market and knew I could fill it. For 18 months, I poured everything into the startup. I maxed out credit cards, ate nothing but grocery store pasta, and worked from a cramped co-working space. The platform was revolutionary. It could predict inventory needs, optimize supply chains, and reduce waste by up to 40%. Early beta users were thrilled, but I needed capital to scale. I applied for every grant, pitched to dozens of investors, and bootstrapped as much as possible. But there was still a gap. I needed $5,000 to cover server costs and basic marketing to reach the next funding milestone. It was such a small amount compared to what the platform could generate, but it might as well have been $1 million given my maxed out financial situation. That's when I made what felt like the hardest decision of my life, asking my parents for help. I drove home to Denver, prepared a full presentation with financial projections, user testimonials, and a detailed repayment plan. I'd pay them back within 6 months with interest. The meeting was a disaster. Dad barely looked at my presentation before dismissing it as another one of Sarah's schemes. Mom was more diplomatic but equally discouraging. "Honey, you're always chasing these big dreams instead of settling down. Maybe it's time to find a stable job." and think about your future. This is my future, I explained, showing them testimonials from beta users who were saving thousands monthly. This isn't a dream. It's a proven solution to a real problem. Sarah, you've always been so needy, Mom sighed. Successful people don't come begging family for money, they find other ways. The word needy hit like a physical blow. After everything I'd accomplished, MIT graduation, successful projects, building something from nothing, they saw me asking for help as weakness rather than strategic thinking. I left that day with nothing but a lecture about fiscal responsibility from parents who'd funded Madison's every whim without question. The drive back to San Francisco was the longest 4 hours of my life. I felt stupid for believing they might see my potential, naive for thinking our relationship had evolved beyond their obvious favoritism. But their rejection lit something inside me. I'd prove that their needy daughter could succeed without their support. I'd show them exactly what they'd dismissed so carelessly. I just had no idea how dramatically that proof would come or how sweet the vindication would taste. 2 months after my parents' devastating rejection, I was drowning in credit card debt and desperately seeking alternative funding when Madison called with news that made my blood boil. She was practically bouncing with excitement as she FaceTimed me from what looked like an expensive restaurant. Sarah, you'll never guess what happened, she squealed, her diamond earrings catching the light. Mom and Dad are giving me $120,000 to start my art therapy business. I nearly dropped my phone. What art therapy business? I've been thinking about. Combining my art background with helping people, like therapy through creative expression. Mom thinks it's such a meaningful way to give back to the community, and Dad says it's a smart investment in the wellness industry. The irony was suffocating. Madison had zero training in therapy, no business plan, and her art background consisted of a degree she'd barely used and those 3 paintings she'd sold to family friends. Yet our parents were handing her more money than I'd made in 2 years of grinding in Silicon Valley. That's incredible, I managed, watching her show off the new designer purse she'd bought to celebrate the investment. The best part is it's not even a loan, Dad said. Successful businesses need proper capitalization and they believe in my vision. They're even helping me find office space in that new wellness center downtown. I hung up and immediately called my parents, trying to keep the anger out of my voice. Congratulations on supporting Madison's new venture, I said carefully. We're so proud of her initiative, Mom gushed. She's really thinking about her impact on the world, not just making money. The implication stung. Thanks for watching. And subscribe to Watching and Seenins. According to them, my platform that helped small businesses reduce waste and operate more efficiently was just about making money, while Madison's undefined art therapy concept was meaningful. Dad, I'm curious about the business plan. What specific services will she offer? What's her target market? There was a pause. Well, she's still developing the details. But sometimes you have to invest in passion and potential, not just spreadsheets. This from the man who demanded detailed financial projections for my $5,000 request, then dismissed them without reading past the first page. Over the following weeks, I watched Madison's business launch through social media. She rented a beautiful studio space with exposed brick walls and floor-to-ceiling windows. She bought top-of-the-line art supplies, installed a meditation area with expensive crystals, and hired an interior designer to create the perfect healing atmosphere. Her Instagram showed daily updates, setting up my sacred creative space, art therapy, wellness, following my dreams. The hashtags alone made me cringe, but the comments from our parents were even worse. So proud of our entrepreneurial daughter, Mom wrote. This is what following your passion looks like, Dad added. Meanwhile, I was rationing grocery store pasta and walking to work to save on gas money. My startup was gaining traction with users, but without capital to scale, I was stuck watching competitors with better funding capture the market I'd identified first. The breaking point came during Madison's grand opening event. Our parents flew in, brought their friends, and treated it like a wedding reception. The local newspaper even ran a feature story, "Young Entrepreneur Brings Healing Arts to Downtown Denver." In the article, Madison spoke about bridging the gap between creativity and mental wellness, and creating a safe space for authentic self-expression. She mentioned her family's unwavering support and how their investment in her vision made everything possible. Reading that article felt like getting punched in the stomach. Madison had no certifications, no training in therapy, and no actual business plan beyond art makes people feel better. Yet she was being celebrated as an entrepreneur, while I'd been dismissed as needy for requesting a fraction of her funding for a proven solution with paying customers. I called my college roommate Jessica, who'd become a therapist in Seattle. "Jess, I need to understand something. Can someone just start doing art therapy without training?" "Absolutely not," she said immediately. Art therapy requires a master's degree in art therapy or counseling plus supervised clinical hours. You can't just call yourself an art therapist because you have an art degree. That's actually dangerous, and potentially illegal depending on how she markets herself. My heart raced. What if someone is advertising therapeutic services without proper credentials? That could be considered practicing without a license. Most states take that very seriously, especially if someone's charging for services they're not qualified to provide. I spent the next hour researching Colorado's regulations. Sure enough, using terms like therapy and therapeutic services without proper licensing was illegal. Madison's website and marketing materials were filled with claims about therapeutic benefits and healing through art therapy sessions. But pointing this out to my parents would make me look petty and jealous. They'd already decided I was the problematic child who couldn't be happy for her sister's success. Instead, I screenshot everything and documented the illegal claims, knowing that karma has a way of handling these situations. What really ate at me wasn't just the money. It was the complete dismissal of my work combined with blind faith in Madison's fantasy. They'd given her enough capital to fund 20 startups like mine based on nothing more than pretty words and good intentions. That night I made a decision that would change everything. I wasn't going to waste any more energy being angry about their favoritism. Instead, I'd channel every ounce of that rage into proving them wrong. They thought I was needy for asking for help. Fine. I'd succeed without them, and when I did, they'd realize exactly what they'd dismissed. I just had no idea how spectacularly that vindication would unfold, or how quickly their tune would change when the world started paying attention. 3 months after Madison's grand opening, I was working from a coffee shop at 6 a.m. trying to squeeze every productive hour from my day when my phone started buzzing with notifications. My platform had been featured on TechCrunch overnight. A major tech journalist had discovered us through a small business owner who'd reduced his operational costs by 35% using our system. The article was titled, "This bootstrapped AI platform is quietly revolutionizing small business operations," and it detailed exactly what I'd been trying to explain to my parents months earlier. Within hours, my inbox was flooded with investor inquiries, partnership requests, and customer applications. But the real game changer came the next week when Marcus Chen from Venture Forward reached out. Marcus was known for identifying unicorn companies before they exploded. He'd been an early investor in 3 companies that later sold for over $1 billion each. His email was brief but electric. "Sarah, your platform is exactly what we've been looking for. Can we schedule a call today?" The call lasted 3 hours. Marcus understood not just what we'd built but where it could go. He'd been tracking the inventory management space for years, waiting for someone to crack the code on predictive AI for small businesses. "You've solved the scalability problem that everyone else has been struggling with," he said. "This isn't just a good business, Talpi. This is infrastructure for the future of commerce." Within 2 weeks we had a term sheet for $2.3 million in Series A funding. But Marcus wanted more than just an investment. He wanted to help us build something extraordinary. "Sarah, you have the potential to create a platform that fundamentally changes how small businesses operate. But you need to think bigger." "How much bigger?" I asked. "IPO bigger. Exit strategy bigger. We're talking about building the backbone for millions of small businesses worldwide." The next 6 months were a blur of 18-hour days, rapid hiring, and explosive growth. We moved from my cramped co-working space to a real office, then to a larger one, then to a full floor in a downtown San Francisco high-rise. Our user base grew from hundreds to thousands to tens of thousands. The platform evolved beyond inventory management into comprehensive business intelligence. We added features for demand forecasting, supplier relationship optimization, and automated reordering. Our AI learned from each business, becoming more accurate and valuable over time. By month 4, we were processing millions of dollars in transactions daily. By month 6, we were saving our clients over $10 million monthly in reduced waste and optimized operations. The platform that my parents had dismissed as another one of Sarah's schemes was becoming the foundation for thousands of successful businesses. But I didn't tell my family anything about this success. When Madison called to update me on her art therapy business, which had seen exactly 3 clients in 4 months and was burning through the $120,000 with alarming speed, I just listened and made supportive sounds. "Business is slow right now," she admitted during one call. "Mom says it takes time to build a client base and Dad thinks I should expand my services." I bit my tongue, knowing that her services were legally questionable and that she'd spent most of the money on aesthetic elements rather than business fundamentals. Meanwhile, I was quietly building something that would change both our lives forever. The turning point came when TechCrunch ran a follow-up article titled "From Ramen to Riches: The Bootstrap Success Story Everyone Should Know." The piece detailed my journey from maxed-out credit cards to million-dollar valuations, but what really caught attention was the efficiency metrics. Businesses using our platform were seeing average cost reductions of, quote, 28% and revenue increases of 15% within the first quarter. That article caught the attention of Global Tech Enterprises, a Fortune 500 company that had been struggling with supply chain optimization across their thousands of retail locations. Their CEO, Amanda Richardson, called me personally. "Sarah, we've been throwing millions at consultants trying to solve the problems your platform handles automatically," she said. "We want to discuss an acquisition." I nearly dropped the phone. "An acquisition? We're prepared to make an offer that would allow us to integrate your technology across our entire network while giving you the resources to scale globally. Are you interested in hearing the number?" The number was $50 million. I stared at my laptop screen for a full minute, trying to process what I just heard. $50 million for the company my parents had considered too risky for a $5,000 investment. The scheme they'd dismissed was worth more than they'd earn in multiple lifetimes. But here's where the story gets interesting. This is the moment where everything I thought I knew about family loyalty was about to explode. Because as I sat in that coffee shop trying to wrap my head around a life-changing offer, I had no idea that my phone was about to ring with news that would make the acquisition seem small compared to the family drama heading my way. The platform wasn't just successful, it was about to become the subject of a Forbes cover story about young entrepreneurs disrupting traditional industries. And when that magazine hit stands, everyone in my family was going to discover that the needy daughter had built something extraordinary while they were busy funding Madison's fantasy. I want to pause here for a moment because this is where the real betrayal begins to unfold. Have you ever had a moment where you realized your family fundamentally misunderstood who you were? Where their version of your story was so different from reality that it felt like living in different universes? Drop a comment and let me know about a time when you had to prove someone wrong about your potential. I read every single one, and your stories honestly keep me motivated to share these experiences. And if you're enjoying this wild ride, smash that subscribe button because we're about to dive into family drama that makes reality TV look tame. The Forbes article was being written. The acquisition offer was on the table. And my family had absolutely no idea that their unsuccessful daughter was about to become the most financially successful person in our family's history. But success, as I was about to learn, has a funny way of revealing people's true characters, especially when money is involved. The Forbes photographer arrived at our office on a Tuesday morning that felt like stepping into an alternate reality. Just 18 months after my parents called me needy, I was being featured as one of 30 under 30 tech innovators reshaping American business. The journalist Rebecca Martinez, no relation despite the shared surname, had been tracking our story since the TechCrunch feature. "Sarah, what makes your journey particularly compelling is the bootstrap element," she said, adjusting her recorder. "You built a $50 million company with essentially no initial capital. How did you fund those critical early months?" I thought about mentioning my parents' rejection but decided against it. "Credit cards mostly, and a lot of ramen noodles." "Did you ever consider asking family for support?" The question hit unexpectedly hard. Family support comes in many forms, I said carefully. Sometimes the best support is learning to believe in yourself when others don't. The interview covered our technology growth metrics and future plans. Rebecca was particularly interested in the acquisition offer from global tech enterprises. $50 million is life-changing money for someone your age. Are you planning to accept? We're evaluating all options. The platform has potential to scale much larger, so we're balancing immediate returns against long-term impact. What I didn't mention was that Marcus Chen had already convinced me to decline Global Tech's offer. Sarah, you're thinking too small, he'd said. This platform could be worth 10 times that in 2 years. Don't sell your future for quick cash. Instead, we were planning a Series B funding round that would value the company at $200 million while keeping me as majority owner. The numbers were almost abstract at this point. I'd gone from begging for $5,000 to turning down $50 million in less than 2 years. The Forbes photoshoot was surreal. They wanted shots of me in our server room working at my standing desk and collaborating with our growing team. The photographer kept emphasizing authentic success, whatever that meant. Can we get some shots of you with family? Rebecca asked during a break. Our readers love seeing the personal support systems behind successful entrepreneurs. I laughed, probably too bitterly. My family isn't really part of this story. Really? That's unusual. Most successful people credit family support as crucial to their journey. Every family is different, I said, thinking about Madison's $120,000 art therapy business that had quietly closed after 6 months of financial bleeding. Sometimes you have to create your own support system. The article was scheduled to publish in 3 weeks, with the cover story releasing simultaneously online and in print. Rebecca warned me to prepare for increased attention. Forbes covers generate significant interest, especially for young entrepreneurs. You might want to give your family a heads up, but I didn't. Call it petty revenge or simple exhaustion, but I wanted my parents to discover my success the same way everyone else would, by accident, without warning, and with the full weight of their earlier dismissal fresh in their minds. Those 3 weeks passed in a blur of finalizing our Series B terms, hiring key personnel, and preparing for the media attention Rebecca had warned about. Our user base had grown to over 5,000 businesses, and we were processing nearly $100 million in transactions monthly. Meanwhile, Madison had moved back home after her business failed, and our parents were already discussing funding her next venture, something involving wellness coaching, despite her having 0 relevant qualifications. The family group chat was full of supportive messages about finding your path and learning from experiences. Nobody asked about my work anymore. They'd decided I was married to my career in an unhealthy way, and Madison needed their support, while I had apparently chosen financial success over family relationships. The narrative they'd created was so far from reality it felt fictional. The Forbes issue hit newsstands on a Thursday morning. I was in our conference room finalizing details for announcing our Series B funding when my phone started buzzing with calls and texts. The first was from my college roommate Jessica. Sarah. Forbes cover. Are you kidding me? Then my former MIDE advisor. Congratulations on the Forbes feature. So proud to see what you've built. Then messages from high school classmates I hadn't spoken to in years, tech industry contacts, and random LinkedIn connections. But nothing from my family for the first hour. The silence was deafening. I imagined my parents discovering the magazine at their local grocery store, seeing my face on the cover with the headline, "The 29-year-old who built a $200 million company from credit card debt." The article was everything Rebecca had promised: detailed, respectful, and focused on the platform's impact rather than just the financial success. It mentioned our plans to expand internationally, our commitment to supporting small businesses, and our goal of processing over $1 billion in annual transactions by next year. There was one paragraph that I knew would hit my family particularly hard. Martinez bootstrapped her entire operation, declining to seek traditional funding sources, including family support. Sometimes the greatest gift is learning to believe in your own vision when others don't. She reflects on her unconventional path to success. My phone finally rang with a call from home around 10 a.m. It was Mom, and her voice was strange, higher-pitched, almost shaky. "Sarah, honey, we just saw." We had no idea. "Why didn't you tell us about any of this?" "Tell you about what, Mom? The Forbes magazine, the company. You're on the cover saying you built a $200 million business." When did this happen? I let the question hang for a moment, remembering their dismissal, their lecture about being needy, their immediate willingness to fund Madison's legally questionable art therapy business with more money than I'd initially needed to change my life. "It's been happening for a while, Mom. I guess nobody asked." The family emergency meeting was called for that Saturday, just 2 days after the Forbes article went live. Mom's voice on the phone had that particular strain that meant serious family business needed discussing, the same tone she'd used when Grandma was diagnosed with cancer or when Dad's business partner embezzled money. I drove to Denver knowing this conversation would permanently alter our family dynamics. The success wasn't just financial validation. It was proof that their fundamental assessment of my character and potential had been catastrophically wrong. Walking into my childhood home felt different this time. The same beige walls and family photos, but now I was seeing them through the lens of someone who'd just graced the cover of Forbes magazine. The irony wasn't lost on me that I was meeting them in the same living room where they'd rejected my $5,000 loan request. Madison was already there, looking uncomfortable in a way I'd rarely seen. Our parents sat on the couch with a copy of Forbes between them, my face staring up from the coffee table like evidence in a trial. "Sarah," Dad began, his voice having that careful tone he used with important clients, "we need to understand what happened here. This article says you've built a company worth $200 million, but just last year you were asking us for $5,000. "That's right," I said, simply settling into the armchair across from them. "Last year I needed $5,000 to scale the platform that's now worth $200 million. Mom's eyes were red-rimmed, suggesting she'd been crying. "But honey, why didn't you tell us it was successful? We had no idea any of this was happening." The question revealed how completely they'd disconnected from my life. "Mom, I tried to explain the potential when I asked for your support. You called me needy and said successful people don't beg family for money." The words hung in the air like smoke. Dad shifted uncomfortably, his hands fidgeting with the magazine cover. "That's not. We never meant." Mom started, then stopped. "We just thought you were always chasing these big dreams instead of being practical." "This dream just got valued at $200 million by professional investors," I said quietly. While Madison's art therapy business burned through $120 0 inches 6 months before closing, Madison finally spoke, her voice barely above a whisper. "Sarah, I'm sorry about the business thing. I know Mom and Dad gave me money when they didn't help you." It was the first time anyone in the family had acknowledged the obvious favoritism. The admission was simultaneously validating and heartbreaking. My sister wasn't malicious, just spoiled and unaware of how differently we'd been treated. "The money isn't the real issue," I said, looking directly at my parents. "It's that you fundamentally misunderstood who I am and what I was capable of. You saw me asking for strategic business investment as neediness while funding Madison's undefined wellness fantasies as supporting her dreams." Dad finally found his voice, though it came out strained. "Sarah, we made a mistake. We didn't understand what you were building, and we should have taken the time to really listen to your presentation. Dad, you didn't even read past the first page of my business plan. A plan for a platform that now serves 5,000 businesses and processes $100 million monthly." The numbers seemed to physically impact him. He leaned back like I'd pushed him, his face going pale. "What can we do to fix this?" Mom asked, tears now flowing freely. "How do we make this right?" It was the question I'd been dreading because the answer was so complicated. They couldn't unmake their dismissal or unfeel their lack of faith in me. They couldn't retroactively provide the support that would have meant everything 18 months ago. "I don't need your money now," I said. "I don't need your validation or apologies. What I needed was for you to believe in me when it mattered, and that opportunity is gone." "But we're family," Madison said desperately. "Families make mistakes and forgive each other." "You're right, families do make mistakes, but some mistakes reveal fundamental truths about how people see you. This wasn't just missing one opportunity, It was a pattern of viewing me as less worthy of investment than Madison of seeing my ambition as character flaws instead of potential. The room fell silent, except for Mom's quiet crying. I felt simultaneously powerful and empty. This was the vindication I'd fantasized about during those 18 months of grinding alone, but it tasted more bitter than sweet. The Forbes article mentions you're expanding internationally, Dad said quietly. And raising more funding. We closed a Series B round yesterday. A $50 million at a $500 million valuation. The numbers were getting absurd even to me, but they represented something bigger than money. They proved that my vision had been correct, my plan solid, and their dismissal completely wrong. We want to be part of your success, Mom said. We want to support you now. Now that Forbes validated what I was trying to tell you last year, I asked. Now that other people confirmed I wasn't just chasing impossible dreams, they had no answer for that because we all knew it was true. Their sudden interest coincided perfectly with external validation of my success. Standing up to leave, I looked around the room one final time. These were the people who were supposed to believe in me before anyone else did, who should have seen potential where others saw risk. I love you all, I said, meaning it despite everything. But I need time to process how we got here, and what our relationship looks like going forward. As I drove back to San Francisco, I realized the real victory wasn't the money or recognition, it was finally understanding my own worth independent of their opinion. The little girl who desperately wanted their approval had died somewhere between their rejection and Forbes calling. 6 months after the Forbes article, I was sitting in my corner office overlooking San Francisco Bay when my assistant buzzed me with an unusual call. "Sarah, there's someone from the IRS on line 3. She says it's regarding a family member." My stomach dropped as I picked up the phone. "This is Sarah Martinez." "Miss Martinez, this is Agent Patricia Williams with the IRS Criminal Investigation Division. I'm calling about your sister Madison Martinez and some irregularities we've discovered regarding her business taxes and claimed therapeutic services." The investigation had apparently started when a client complained to Colorado's health department about Madison's unlicensed therapy practice. When state investigators looked into her business, they discovered she'd been claiming tax deductions for therapeutic equipment and training she'd never purchased while reporting income from services she wasn't legally qualified to provide. "The situation has escalated because your parents appear to have claimed the $120,000 they gave Miss Martinez as a business investment for tax purposes, but there's no legitimate business entity or proper documentation," Agent Williams explained. "My parents had tried to write off Madison's funding as supporting a family business, but since Madison had been operating illegally and falsifying expense reports, the entire arrangement looked like tax fraud to federal investigators." "Are you currently in contact with your family members?" the agent asked. "Limited contact," I said honestly. "We may need to interview you about your knowledge of the business operations and family financial arrangements." After hanging up, I sat staring at the bay, processing the cosmic irony. My parents had risked federal tax fraud to fund Madison's illegal business, while refusing to support my legitimate company that was now featured in business schools as a case study in successful entrepreneurship. The IRS investigation made local news within a week. "Denver family under federal investigation for tax fraud related to unlicensed therapy business," read the headline in the Denver Post. The article detailed how Madison had been operating without proper licensing while claiming to provide therapeutic services, and how the family had attempted to claim illegitimate business deductions. My phone started ringing constantly with reporters wanting comment from the successful sister. I declined all interviews, but the contrast was already making news. Forbes cover story: "Entrepreneur's family under investigation for fraud" became a trending topic on Twitter. The media attention was brutal for my parents' accounting firm. Clients started questioning whether they could trust accountants who couldn't properly handle their own family's tax situation. Dad's business partner quietly bought him out within a month. But the real justice came in ways I never expected. The small business community that my platform served rallied around the story. A viral LinkedIn post from one of our clients read, "While Sarah Martinez was building technology that saved my business $50,000 annually, Her family was funding fraudulent operations and calling her needy for asking for legitimate support. This is what believing in real entrepreneurs looks like. Orders flooded in from businesses that wanted to support a company built by someone who'd overcome family rejection to create something meaningful. Our revenue jumped 40% in 2 months purely from people who connected with the story of persevering despite being underestimated. Madison called me in tears 3 months into the investigation. "Sarah, I'm so sorry. I never meant for any of this to happen. Mom and Dad convinced me that what I was doing was legal, and I didn't know they were writing it off illegally." For the first time, I heard genuine remorse in her voice. Not just regret about consequences, but understanding of how wrong their treatment of me had been. "I've been thinking about what you said at the family meeting," she continued. "About how they always saw you differently. You're right, and I'm sorry I didn't see it before. I'm sorry I took their support for granted while you were building something incredible on your own." The legal resolution came 8 months later. Madison pled guilty to operating without a license and paid significant fines. My parents pled guilty to tax fraud and paid penalties totaling $180,000 FTL, more than they'd originally given Madison. Dad lost his CPA license and had to close his accounting firm. But perhaps the most satisfying justice was completely unexpected. Harvard Business School contacted me about teaching a case study based on my company's growth strategy. The case would be titled, "Bootstrap to Billions: Strategic Growth Without Traditional Funding Sources." Standing in front of 90 MBA students at Harvard explaining how I'd built a platform that now served 200,000 businesses globally. I thought about that meeting in my parents' living room where they'd called me needy. The most important lesson I told the students isn't about funding or technology. It's about believing in your vision when the people closest to you don't. Sometimes the greatest gift is being forced to prove yourself without a safety net. One student raised her hand. "Do you regret not having family support during the early stages?" I considered the question carefully. "I regret that they couldn't see my potential, but I don't regret learning to succeed independently. Their rejection forced me to build something stronger than what I could have created with their conditional support. Today my platform processes over $2 billion in annual transactions. We've expanded to 15 countries and employ 500 people. More importantly, we've saved small businesses over $100 million in operational costs and helped thousands of entrepreneurs build sustainable companies. My relationship with my family is slowly rebuilding, but it's different now. It's based on mutual respect rather than their conditional approval. They've learned to see me as I am, not as their projection of who I should be." So here's my question for you. Have you ever had to choose between family approval and pursuing your dreams? Have you experienced that moment when proving someone wrong felt both victorious and heartbreaking? Share your story in the station comments. I genuinely read every single one because these experiences shape who we become. If this story resonated with you, please hit that like button and subscribe for more real-life stories about overcoming family drama and building success on your own terms. Share this with anyone who's ever been underestimated by the people who should believe in them most. Thank you for watching, and remember, sometimes the best revenge is simply becoming so successful that their opinion no longer matters. Here's to building the life you deserve with or without family support. Until next time, keep proving them wrong.